Hello, Gary Champion, psychic medium. Today we're going to talk about right and wrong, or I am. And I'm not sure that I'm qualified to talk about right and wrong, but it was given to me from the other side, and I got to grab it and run with it. Um, as a child, you're growing up, and your father says, "No, son, that's wrong. That's wrong," or "This is right." And so your only way of judging right and wrong is through your father, or you're working for a company and this is wrong. And this is the right. Not necessarily the right way to do something or the wrong way to do something, but the rightness of it. That's what I'm talking about. And the truth is, it's all arbitrary. Um, if chopping down all the trees is the norm for everything, and the person that decides that is the man who owns the trees. He says, we're going to cut down all the trees, and that is right. Sends the workers out to cut down all the trees in this. Let's keep it small. Let's keep it in this neighborhood. And I don't know what they're going to do with the trees. Maybe they make lumber. Maybe they make houses. Maybe they make furniture. But the getting of it, the harvesting of it, is where the problem lies. Different man owns the same piece of property and he says that's wrong. Well, why did he say it was right? Well, he needs the lumber to build furniture and houses and whatever. Well, what's the wrongness there? We have no trees. And I live on a block where houses on both sides of the street in the front all have trees. And the afternoon sun comes right down through there, and we're all in the shade. So back onto the house is a different story. Maybe I'll do the rightness of wrongness of insulating my garage door, which is what I did. First time we moved here, it was awfully hot in the garage, and the back of the house was hot. So we determined that it was right that we put insulation in the aluminum door, which I did. We determined that it was right to put insulated curtains on the back part of the house. What makes it right? I own the house, but beyond that, what makes it right? It lowers your electric bill, it lowers your heating bill, and electricity is expensive. So that in itself is right, but someone else could disprove that and say it's wrong. You're wasting material on curtains, you're wasting aluminum on doors, you're wasting siding on insulating the inside of the door, and you decided that, not me, because I would choose to insulate. But down through here is these big, we have little crepe myrtles, and we have large, they're called live oaks. They're popular in Texas probably because they don't need any water to grow. I don't know where the live comes from. You got me on that. They're alive, maybe. I don't know. It's an old term. And I was down at the end of the block the other night. There's a meeting down here at the end of the block every afternoon. It's about 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, something like that. And the people that own down there come out, and there's a little gab fest. We all get our mail and have a little talk. And I'm noticing that it's really hot down at that end of the block. Now, I guess I've sort of noticed it, but I'm from Texas, so heat is common. We didn't have air conditioning as a child, so the house was generally warmer than it was outside. The only way we got out of that was Dad bought a big, what they call water coolers, swamp coolers, what they were actually called. Stuck one in the back window where we could watch television without. There are consequences to all these things. You put in a blower with this huge rotary fan, and now you can't hear television. So you're cool, but you can't watch television. Anyway, this whole road, and it's a concrete road. There's no asphalt in it, so it really gets hot. It's like a skillet. You could cook on it, I'd say. You could cook eggs and things like that, and bacon and things like that. And we're standing around. All the dogs are doing what dogs do. I said, man, it's hot down here. And I said, I remember talking to a guy that lived up here where I live that he rented down there and he sold that or unrented. I think he's a renter and he rents here now because it's cooler. They all were talking about it. Yeah, it's just that sun's just straight on the building. And we got to talking about the rightness and wrongness. We didn't actually use those words, but that's what was talked about. And I said, if they had, because it's just a big circular area down at the end of the block. It's a dead end, cul-de-sac is what they call it. I don't know what that means. It's a cul-de-sac, but it's a turnaround place. Drop your kids off, pick them up, even though there aren't that many kids, or get your mail, turn around and go back up the road and park in your garage and get out and go in your house. But I said, you can see, if they had cut this in about, 6 feet, 10 feet, they could put live oaks in front of every single house, a bunch of them, just as many as they wanted. And you would be cool in your house. Even though we have air conditioning, I can guarantee you their bill's $100 more than mine is. That's wrong. That's the wrongness of that idea. Does it look cooler? I have no clue. I'm not a judgment on the front of buildings, whether they look cool or don't look cool. I'm a good judge of hot because I grew up here and we didn't have air conditioning and really any trees where we lived. There weren't any trees. So I would fill a large metal, used to wash cucumbers in them and make cucumbers. Fill it up with water and sit in it. It's the only way I could keep from dying. The heat was too great. I don't know how my mother stood it in the kitchen. Heat must have been horrible. Of course, she was from Louisiana and she knew a lot about heat too. But that was a discussion, how this is a wrong idea. Someone who owned the property thought it would probably be right to make it look cooler. You see the front of the building is nice, and there's different townhomes sliced into it. And then there's a big clock. So they wanted you to make this turn at the top of the hill and come down the hill and see that big clock. It's a huge clock, making an effect, but burning everybody up and raising electric bills left and right. And at some point, maybe you could afford the house and everything goes with it, but eventually when the price of electricity goes up, and we don't have gas here. In this particular area, it's all electric. So if you can't have an electric stove. I've heard people complain about that. No electric stove. Even my wife, electric stove, you turn it on, it's instant heat. You can cook real quick, get out. Yeah, cost more. The rightness of electricity can be seen here. What, you're going to be 5 more minutes in the kitchen? But you're going to save $50 a month in electricity? That's wrong. This is right. Saving electricity, having more money to send your kids through school, to buy food, to drive a decent car, to dress right, that's right. What's wrong is to do what they're doing. Anyway, and we're all standing out in the road, and I said, see what they could have just put the dirt out here, and the concrete could have started there, and the mailboxes are over here to the left. It's a sidewalk, goes right to the boxes. It wouldn't make any difference at all walking to the sidewalk, because the sidewalk starts out at the end, walks right to the box. Maybe be 2 feet further. But the rightness of it is overwhelmed by the wrongness of it. You believe that people who have passed want to talk about this stuff? Well, if you were a medium, you wouldn't think it was strange. Stuff like that goes through our heads all day long about the rightness and wrongness of something. And generally, I don't get into it because I'm not a rightness or a wrong person. I'm not a legal or an illegal person. I could never get that right. Well, that's illegal. Well, why? Because this group of people over here passed a law saying that was right. This guy owns all these trees, and he says it's right to cut them down. New owner comes around 10 years later, pulls up all the roots, plants the new trees, and says this is the rightness of it. Because all our bills are going to go down $50 on a couple of hundred condos. $1 million a year. I don't know what it is, and we'll be more comfortable. You won't be hearing that thing that rumbles. But I don't know right and wrong. I guess maybe has been proven many times. But the rightness of it, give me the tree in the front of the house because the sun's going that way. Move it out 20 feet. Cut that in. Covers the house all day long. Got a nice shady house. You can sit out front. Instead, they wait until it's like 8 o'clock where it cools down maybe 5-6 degrees. Instead of being 100, maybe it's 90. Let's say that. And it continues to fall all night until a certain point, and then the sun comes up and it goes right back up. It's normal rightness of sun and rotation of the earth and everything else. But no one looked at that. They looked at the beautifulness of it. That's not even a word. I just made it up, just in case you couldn't tell. The beauty of it is that you can see the front of the building, and they're pretty, and it makes it easier to sell them. The wrongness of it is you're going to spend $1,000 a month more to air condition it, and if you're smart, like I'm not saying I'm smart, but not too dumb, I insulated my door, and then I went up overhead in the attic. This is second floor, and that'd be the third floor. And I carried insulation up and cut it and distributed it all over the top. Why? Because my bill would be less. The same thing you would do with a tree. What's the difference between a tree? They're insulation. Limbs and leaves insulate. So you put a row of 5 or 6 live oaks there, all those houses would be cool for most of the afternoon. And I guess the sun would hit underneath in the morning. No, the sun's over there in the morning. The backside would be. So, but they have little trees back there. They're not big enough, but they're little. I don't even know what the tree is. It's so unusual. So it's a nice looking tree, very decorative. But live oaks would work there. And there's a pond down there. You could circle the pond with live oaks. Plenty of room for it. And in the morning when the sun's bearing down on you, the back part of your house, your garage, which is that aluminum door, they're all aluminum doors on the back side. It's like a skillet, right? It's like an oven. It would be cool. So your garage would be cool. So your tools would be cool. So all the things you're storing in there won't melt and pour out on the floor or blow up. Right and wrong, good and bad, interesting terms. But the person that defines that has in the past been the person who owns it. Yeah, my wife is Ukrainian. It's right to attack Ukraine and take it back. Because 100 years ago, that was ours. I think it's 50 years ago. I could be wrong there. See, that's right and wrong. Used to be ours. But historically, many centuries, that's Ukrainian land. They farmed the land. They raised their kids there. They were in all those wars through there. And now you're going to take it back because you say it's no longer Ukrainian. Well, what was their excuse? Oh, it's full of Nazis. Haven't seen it once since they invaded and killed hundreds of thousands of people. They've not drugged one person up to say he was a Nazi. This is what these Nazis look like. This is what you're looking for, boys. We find these, we'll kill them. Well, first of all, it's not your property. It's not your land. You don't own it. The people that live there own it. And the rightness of that is that they decide what goes on there. Legal and illegal now. But the rightness of it is you don't kill people to take over a piece of land that you think you own, which you don't. And eventually this person's going to pass or somebody's going to shoot him. They have to because he's shooting all his adversaries. He's crashed their planes and poisoned them with polonium and tampered with landing gear and to kill his opposition off. I don't know. It doesn't sound too right to me. It sounds more on the wrong end of something. But a group of people that have the big guns, lots of guns, have decided that this is right when anybody could see that it's wrong. Might does not make right. That's the term you used to hear. Might makes right. We got 1,000,000 men, you don't have any. Well, right now they've cut their armies down to nothing. They don't have anything to attack with, but still they're attacking. We call that stupid. Go home, plow the ground, go to college, get a job, teach, uh, build, rebuild all these buildings you've been blowing down simply because you think you should or you can or it's right. Might does not make right. I could be wrong, but I hope not. No fear, no regret, no anger. Thanks for watching.